Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. Can we please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's hearing is specifically focused on the tentative 2026 county budget. The purpose of this meeting is to hear public comments and questions related directly to the proposed budget, including revenues, expenditures, and financial priorities. To ensure we maintain an orderly and efficient meeting, we ask that all comments and questions remain limited to the budget. We appreciate everyone's cooperation and participation in helping us make informed, responsible financial decisions for Lackawanna County. I would like to thank everyone who has worked on the budget, and special thanks to Dave Bolzoni, our CFO, and Mary Jo Granahan, our budget director, along with my fellow commissioners for their time and effort spent on preparing the tentative 2026 budget. I would also like to thank Dunmore Community Center for allowing us to utilize their facility. Although I am new to the role of commissioner, I am not new to county government. I have over a decade of experience serving as the deputy and director of the Lackawanna County Economic Development Department and over 25 plus years of experience in the financial services industry, maximizing bottom line savings and driving profitability. In my previous role in the county, the department administered hundreds of millions of dollars in grant funds that were utilized to help our residents and small businesses. It is very unfortunate that I did not get the opportunity to do this sooner, as the PA Supreme Court recently confirmed. The 7 months my seat sat dormant were 7 months wasted at the county's expense in being able to govern itself, and Commissioner Gaughan has only himself to thank for that. With that being said, I have started a plan to continue carefully analyzing the tentative 2026 budget to discover new revenue opportunities and cost efficiencies, all while maintaining the high level of services our community deserves. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, Dave Bolzoni, our CFO, is not able to make it here tonight. But if anyone has any questions or public comments, I will open the floor up to that, but please, again, limit them to the budget.
May I say a few words before public comment? Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Commissioner Bill Gaughan. I'm very happy to be here in Dunmore today. Just before we get started, wanted to recognize some of the elected officials in the audience. Council President of Dunmore, Janet Breyer, Councilman Tripp O'Malley. We also have former Councilman Vince Amico here. I also want to recognize Councilwoman Catherine Mackerel-Oven, Councilman Mike Dempsey, Councilman Tom Hallinan, Councilwoman Beth McDonald-Zangardi, and Councilman Patrick Nibbs-Lotney. Of course, Mayor Max Conway, Tax Collector Michael Ruddy, the Borough Manager, who does a great job, Greg Wolf, Police Chief Sal Marquez, Fire Chief Kristen Aples, and the Community Center Director Chris Carney. I also want to thank Dave Bolzoni and Mary Jo Granahan for all their work, not only on this particular budget, but on writing the county's financial ship for the future. I want to emphasize, before we get into public comment, that this budget is not only about 2026, but it's about the long-term health of Lackawanna County's government. Consider the big picture that this budget reflects. Our goal, and my goal since last year when I took over, was financial stability, predictability, and sustainability, while maintaining crucial public services, often for our most vulnerable, youngest and oldest citizens, and ensuring that the county continues to play a major role in economic development, job creation, and improving the local quality of life. This budget, the 2026 preliminary budget, maintains the county's commitments while moving us steadfastly towards stability, sustainability, and predictability. I know that we're going to focus on the future tonight by talking about next year's budget, but that does require a bit of context regarding the past and the present. As you know, I was presented with an unfolding financial disaster upon taking office in January of 2024. That included $19 million in unpaid bills, a budget that purported to pay 13 months' worth of expenses with 12 months' worth of revenue, and a projected budget deficit of $37 million. And on top of that, the county was going to run out of money in 2024, literally run out of money. We were about as close to insolvency as you can get. So one of the first things that we did last year was to identify all of those major issues, both financially and operationally, and move quickly to rectify them. We asked for outside, independent financial expertise, and then we listened. The PFM group laid out an unvarnished assessment of the county's cash position and structural deficit, and the steps necessary to put us on a sustainable path. Those recommendations were not easy, and they certainly were not popular. They required us to tighten our belts, freeze discretionary hiring and spending at key moments, and prioritize core services. But they also gave us a plan, a roadmap out of crisis that we have followed step by step. So tonight, I'm proud to announce that we can present a balanced preliminary budget that does not raise taxes and that demonstrates that the hard work that we have put in and the incredibly difficult decisions we have made, including last year's tax increase, are indeed moving the county government towards stability, predictability, and sustainability. That is no accident. It's the product of a solid plan, honest accounting, and the hard work of county staff who tightened spending, found savings, and kept essential services up and running. I'm certainly not celebrating complacency, but we are acknowledging progress, that the county is now on stable ground. And I'll give you a quick example. Last year when I took over, the county, their credit rating was in the tank. And every government gets a credit rating. And in that credit rating report, the credit rating agency looks at the outlook for the next year and down the road. And it can either be positive, negative, or stable. For a long time, the county's financial outlook was negative. And when it's negative, that is not good. That means it's going to cost you more money when you borrow, among a number of other different things. For the first time in recent memory, because of the steps that we made last year, the county's outlook is stable. Stable. We are on stable ground. We also have to remember that this is not just about revenue. For example, structural reforms to our healthcare administration have resulted in next year's originally projected healthcare increase of 9% being reduced by half to 4.5%. So not only do we have a balanced budget, not only do we have a budget with no tax increase, but we also have a budget with over a $500,000 surplus for the first time in a long time. Again, that doesn't happen by accident. It happens because of decisions that we made last year. Likewise, improved administration at the county prison has slashed overtime there and has created a path to keep it under control. Those are just a few examples of improved financial stewardship, but I also want to emphasize that we achieve those reforms without sacrificing county operations or progress. It goes without saying that last year we had an unbelievable issue in crisis in the Office of Youth and Family Services. It was in disarray when this administration began back in 2024. It had a provisional state license, a massive case backlog, scores of vacant positions, and as a result, unfortunately, rock bottom morale. Today, the full state license has been restored. The case backlog has been slashed from well over 1,000 to under 100. Dozens of crucial caseworker positions have been filled, and retention rates have improved. Last year when we took over, there were a dozen or so caseworkers. I think there was 13. Today, we have over 50. Think about that for a minute. These people, and this is part of this budget, it might just be numbers on a sheet to some people, but to me, it's the people from our county that go out and help those who are most in need, the children and the families in Lackawanna County. We had 12 caseworkers to cover an entire county last year. That was a big problem. That's one of the major problems that was cited in every report that was filed with us by the state. And like I said, today we have over 50. We also have launched and been approved for first of its kind Community Pathways Project. The Community Pathways Project is the first of its kind in the state of Pennsylvania. There's no other county in Pennsylvania that's doing it. And that's to help vulnerable children and families get the help they need to thrive before they become subject to the child welfare system. The county has partnered with the Chamber of Commerce to promote high-tech entrepreneurship. We have continued to provide business improvement grants to help small businesses grow and prosper. We have helped businesses and civic organizations to secure millions of dollars in state and federal grants to improve their facilities and their operations. And our Department of Economic Development, and I'm very proud of this program, implemented a program that prevented evictions of 70 families from their apartments and won a statewide award, which they just accepted recently, which helped those tenants and their landlords deal with economic crisis. Our Parks Department has improved the physical condition of our parks while introducing an array of new programs and outdoor opportunities, including, and you'll appreciate this in Dunmore, the beautiful North Pocono Trail in Elmhurst Township, which is going to connect Dunmore to North Pocono. And there's much more to come in 2026 and beyond. Over the past year, we've also rebuilt and paved miles of county roads that had been neglected for far too long. We've made major bridge repairs and replacements, ensuring our communities are safer and better connected. We've invested in modern equipment and smarter planning, so infrastructure work is done faster, cheaper, and built to last. There are still many challenges that lie ahead. The county is in the early stages of recovery, and there will be more difficult but necessary decisions that have to be made. I compare this to the situation that I inherited and many other people inherited upon taking office as a councilman in 2014 in Scranton. Scranton was, at that time, nearly bankrupt, very similar to Lackawanna County. They had to sell off the Scranton Sewer Authority, they had to lease the Scranton Parking Authority, and they had to make very, very difficult decisions. And we had to do the same thing. And it took a few years to get back on stable financial ground. This is a very similar situation. And just to prove my point here, I'll just hold this up for a minute. And this was the same thing I saw in the city of Scranton. This is revenue versus expenditures from 2012 to 2024. If you notice in yellow here, and it might be hard for people to see, that's real estate tax revenue at 27% from 2012 to 2024, while the expenditures are at 79%. So if you don't have enough money, but you keep spending it, that's where you run into a major problem. And that's essentially what happened in the city of Scranton. I'll never forget sitting in a meeting with our recovery coordinator, the Pennsylvania Economy League at the time, and the gentleman actually held up a chart and showed that one of the mayors didn't raise taxes for 10 plus years. Everybody was happy. But what happened during that time is the expenditures skyrocketed. And that's the same situation that county government is in today, but it's getting better. So there's still a lot of challenges ahead. I believe that we are turning the corner. We're not out of the woods yet. What we can be very, very confident about, and what I am very, very confident about, is that we have stopped the free fall. We have stabilized the ship, and we can now plan forward instead of scrambling month to month. And that matters. That matters for businesses who need predictability, for families who rely on public safety and human services, and for every single taxpayer who expects honest stewardship of public dollars. The preliminary budget that we present to you in Dunmore today demonstrates that the long-term structural reforms, although very unpopular, that we have embraced are beginning to improve the county's finances and operations. And these results are a great incentive to continue those reforms to ensure stability, predictability, and sustainability. Now, as Commissioner Sacco said, Mr. Bolzoni could not be here tonight. He was in New York. But I just briefly explain that this is a $181 million operating budget. And again, it does not include a real estate tax millage adjustment. So when we started looking at the budget back in the summer in terms of the 2026 preliminary budget, the original deficit was about $3.9 million. Now remember, Last year, the preliminary budget showed a $37 million deficit. $37 million to 3.9. That is progress. That was reduced by the hard work of our staff in the county, by departmental budget adjustments, by a tax lien sale that we intend to transact next year, and a group health refund. So again, the deficit was about $3.9 million. We made $880,000 worth of cuts. We plan on a tax lien sale in the amount of $1.75 million, and we are getting a refund, a health refund in the amount of $1.1 million. So if you take that and couple it with the improvement in our healthcare costs, we're looking at about over half a million dollars in a surplus. So again, long story short, ladies and gentlemen, we are making serious progress in Lackawanna County. Thank you.
So at this time, we can open it up for any public comments or questions related to the budget.
Good evening. I had 3 questions tonight, or 3 items I wanted to talk about. The first was business improvement grants that you mentioned. I saw them on social media, and I was looking for them in the budget and in prior year budgets, because it said online that at the beginning of every year you set a budget for it. I was curious where to find it in the budget, or if that budget for it's announced. My second item is about collection rates. I looked at the 2022 and 2023 audit, and both of those showed an under 90% collection rate. And I tried to calculate 24 and 25, and they both showed under 90%. But then this year, it wasn't just stayed the same from last year. It was actually increased, I think, from, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but like 90.3 to 90.7. So I guess I'm curious, why are we not just even keeping it the same? Why are we increasing it if repeatedly we seem to be going under? And I might not have all the facts because I only have what's provided, but that's my second question. Because going into my third, when I looked at the budget, yes, we do have a $500,000 surplus in the general fund, which is great. But if my issue with number 2, if my concern there comes to be true, then we're going to be at a $3.5 million deficit. So definitely concerned there that we're overestimating that. The third issue is about fund balance. So when I looked at the budget overall, we're about $22 million surplus, which is great. But then when I looked at each of the funds, I'd say like 90% of that, 21 of the $22 million all comes from fund balance. And when you looked at the fund balance in each of the funds, it's not just, so fund balance, from my understanding of it, is the assets that each fund has, and then you bring that in to balance each fund. But it looks like that's not what's going on. It looks like the entire fund balance is being brought into the budget and saying that it's a revenue. So it looks like we have a $22 million surplus overall, but really we have not a surplus at all. So I guess, and that's not a problem. Doesn't actually change anything in actuality, but I just feel like it might make us look like we're doing way better than we are by showing $22 million in surplus. It seems incredible. I don't know. I don't know if that's just a note that needs to be made, if it's being done properly with accounting wise, but it definitely gives off a different perspective. So those are my 3 questions. The first one's probably the only one that has a short answer.
If you could just state your name
Yeah.
and your municipality, and then also we most certainly will
Awesome.
have Dave or Mary Jo address any of your questions.
That's great.
So we'll get your
Yeah.
information for that. I'm a huge proponent of the Business Improvement Grant. Actually, while I was Deputy and Director of Economic Development, it was a program that was started within the department that I oversaw. And, we helped tons and tons of business and help them either start up or expand and create and retain jobs. So I'm a huge proponent of it. And again, we can most certainly get your information with Mary Jo, and we will get back to you.
That's great. Thank you. My name is Amanda Sagona, Sagona, and I live in Taylor. This is just the one that I can make. So sorry, Dunmore. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
My name is Janet Breyer. I live in Dunmore. I have a couple questions as well. When I first became a Dunmore Borough Councilwoman, I applied for a stamp grant with the state to bring PEL, the Pennsylvania Economic League, to assess our situation in Dunmore, because we also ran into like an $18 million debt when I first became a councilwoman. We did refinance our debt right away. That was one of the recommendations for PEL. We had done it before they came in to study us. But one of the main things that they promulgated was that we desperately need a reassessment in the county. And they said for the municipalities in the county, it's essential, especially for places like Dunmore. That we have we're the only borough in the state with a full-time fire department. We have a police department, DPW department. Our fire department goes to other municipalities because the volunteer fire folks, have kind of disappeared over the years. So, we have quite a few expenses, and that wasn't a recommendation. They were just saying that the best thing for us as a municipality and other municipalities in Lackawanna County would be reassessment. So we're very pro reassessment in Lackawanna County. I just wanted to know what your feelings were on it because you're new. And I also wanted to know if we have this proposed budget of $181 million, is it your intention, now that you two are the new majority, is it your intention to keep this budget, or are you going to change it? I mean, what are your plans for this budget?
So your first, I guess, question about reassessment, I also believe that reassessment was necessary, hasn't been done in a very long time. But I also feel that the process just has to be fair and equitable and done properly so that there's, we're not negatively impacting any one group or any individual. So from my standpoint, again, as you stated, I'm clearly not new to the county, but new to the role. And I'm looking at the reassessment and the evaluations at the moment. So at this point, I haven't had enough information. We haven't finished all of our appeals yet. Once that's done, I intend to truly analyze it and look at the reassessment and how it's gone with our hearings and such. I'm not saying that. At this point, I haven't had enough time to fully analyze what's.
Well, you're only going to be here for 3 more weeks, so I mean, how are you going to?
Okay, and what was your second question?
My second question was about the budget. Are you going to
The
accept it as is?
The budget is a good budget, and it's like Bill said, and like Brenda said, it's a work in progress. And I know Dave is still fine tuning, even though he was unable to be here tonight. So him and Mary Jo and the finance team are certainly looking it over. But as far as, that's certainly an acceptable budget to me. So, I know that Dave is still tweaking it, so.
How do you feel about reassessment?
How do I feel? Basically, just what Brenda said, the reassessment, I've said it has to, we need to have it done. There's no question about it. It's got to be done properly. There's a lot of issues that I still have, and we are waiting for the final.
What issues in particular?
Incorrect appraisals, incorrect numbers on vacant land, incorrect information and assessments and appraisals on commercial and industrial properties. So there's a lot of that has to be.
Who's promulgating that information to you?
The assessor's office.
Assessor's office.
So, and that's
So
what
do you
we're looking at.
anticipate a delay then?
If we have to, we have to. But at this point, I'm waiting to see what the answers are with our assessor's office.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I just comment?
Sure.
So there's 2 things which I respectfully disagree with that were just set up here. The reassessment cannot be paused and it cannot be stopped because there is a court
That's
order.
my concern.
Yeah.
We do not want it paused.
Well, no, and I don't believe that we can because there's a court order that was signed by Judge Tom Munley that says the reassessment has to be completed by January 1st, 2026. And also it's important for everybody to remember, and I know that you know this because you're the council president, if reassessment is going to be screwed around with, or if there's something that Commissioner Chermak or Sacco are going to do in terms of trying to pause it or stop it, that's going to screw up not only our budget, but it's going to screw up every budget in Lackawanna County.
It is.
Because every borough, municipality, and township is waiting for the finalized valuation so that they can finalize their budget. That's number one. Number two, the idea that there's incorrect numbers or incorrect information, that if you get your valuation and you don't agree with it, that's why you appeal. It doesn't mean it's incorrect. It means you don't agree with it, and they might change it based on the information that you would bring forward in the appeals process. Remember, there was an informal appeal process, and if you didn't agree with that, then you went to the formal appeal, and then if you don't agree with that, you can appeal. You can appeal every year, but you can appeal next year. But I do not agree with the idea that it can be paused or it can be stopped. That will be a disaster. And if anybody's been paying attention in the media, the plaintiff's attorney for the group of taxpayers who actually sued Lackawanna County because there hasn't been a reassessment since 1968, she said the moment if it is paused, they'll be dragging us right back into court and asking us why it's being paused. And where that we'll be spending more money.
Yeah, it seems like more like a political decision than a practical decision for our municipalities.
There's some legal opinions in there too, so we're working on all that.
Well, we hope there isn't a pause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. And there are, the tentative budget book is up here for anyone that needs a copy. Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Good evening, William O'Malley, Dunmore. I also had the same concerns that Councilwoman Breyer just brought about reassessment. I think we need to continue it. We cannot pause it because it's going to, like Commissioner Gahan stated, it's going to have a big impact on our budgets. So it has to get done. Just stay the course. People had all these opportunities to appeal. If they didn't, then so be it. They could appeal next year. But I think it's the right thing to do right now. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so now we're open up for commissioner comments. Commissioner Gahn, I know you've already spoken.
I do have a couple of things to say, but you could go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead.
No, you go first.
So, thank you, everybody, for your public comments. I did just want to make one, I haven't had an opportunity to comment on this publicly, so I did just want to say a few things about our communications director, Pat McKenna, who was fired this week.
Commissioner Gahn, with all due respect, this is about the budget.
Well, I'm going to tie it to the budget. Just give me 1 second, with all due respect. So, Pat McKenna, who was fired this week, was instrumental in the unveiling last year of the digital budget book. And let me just take a minute to explain to everybody what that is. So the digital budget book exponentially increases the amount of budget information to the public. It includes detailed descriptions of the budget process, detailed graphics on every department's revenues and expenditures, and narratives of how the county uses public money to deliver crucial public services. Each department head details each department's revenues and expenditures in a question and answer format, and details accomplishments from the previous year and plans and what their goals are. No administration in the history of Lackawanna County government has ever presented a budget with this level of detail. It's a powerful, powerful educational tool. So the reason we did that last year is because when you look at this budget, right, and you're looking at, this is the preliminary budget, obviously, it's just a bunch of numbers. So what we did last year with Pat McKenna's help, and he was one of the people who spearheaded it because of his experience in communications and with the press, we took that, we put it on the website with charts, graphs, and an explanation of how every single penny is spent. So if you go on there now and you want to look at last year's budget, you'll be able to see everything, how every single penny is spent. And the fact that he was fired without any explanation, and in my opinion, for no good reason, now I'm not sure what's going to happen with the digital budget book for 2026. It was one of the most disappointing things that I've ever seen since I've been in public service for the last 10 years, and it deeply, deeply concerns me.
With all due respect, is this related to the budget?
It is, it's related to the digital budget book. So the action that they took is not just a personnel change, in my opinion. It's a symptom of a disturbing pattern of political maneuvering and backroom politics that threatens the transparency and integrity of our county government. We just sat up here and talked to you about the 2026 preliminary budget and how far we've come in terms of transparency so that you could see how every single penny and every single dollar is spent. And then they went and they fired the communications director with no explanation and no reason at all.
With due respect, could we
Now-
please stick to the budget comments? We don't
let me-
discuss personnel issues.
Let me just finish
publicly.
here. Pat McKenna was hired last year with an outstanding reputation, earned over 40 years in journalism and communications. His career was defined by ethical standards, professional conduct, and a clear commitment to speaking truthfully, translating complex issues, and serving the public's right to know. For Commissioners Chermak and Sacco, with all due respect to them, to fire him without explanation sends a chilling message. Loyalty to bosses or political insiders trumps merit, service, and fairness. It signals that public service in our county can be dispensed with as part of a backroom deal, not as part of a process rooted in respect for the workforce. They have made it abundantly clear to me that their top priority is to fire anybody who has any integrity and qualifications. His style of transparency, which is evidenced by the digital budget book that he helped me put together last year, and his ethics, clearly doesn't fit into the dirty backroom political schemes that are going on here. And I find it hard to believe, with all due respect to Commissioner Sacco, that somebody who's only going to be here for the next 3.5 weeks can come in, not even interview the guy, barely talk to him, and fire him.
At this point,
And
I
fire
believe we're
him.
absolutely
And
off
that
course.
is, just let me finish. And that is one of my major concerns, because we worked so hard last year to ensure that that budget was put online and put on there with transparency in mind, so that everybody could see where every dollar is spent. And the fact that they would fire him for no good reason is deeply, deeply, deeply disturbing. The other thing that I'd like to mention in terms of reassessment is I pray to God that Commissioner Chermak and Commissioner Sacco do not try to pause reassessment. I was informed today that they met with Pat Tobin, the Director of Assessment, and I am hoping that they do not try to put this to a vote, whether it's on November 5th, the day after Election Day. I understand, as everybody understands, that reassessment is not a popular thing. I mean, let's face it, it's been 58 years since reassessment has been done. But not only is it necessary, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. There's a court order that tells us in Lackawanna County you must complete it by January 1st, 2026. So the insinuation that somehow we can pause it, or there's something that was done that was wrong, or maybe we need to look at it or inform the public more. There was over a dozen public hearings in every high school in Lackawanna County. This thing started in 2022. So there's no miracle going on here. They've done very, very hard work. There's reassessments that go on in every part of the country. Some parts of the country do it every single year. So to pause it or to stop it would not only be bad in terms of the legal side of it, it would be bad because it would just blow holes in budgets all throughout Lackawanna County. So I hope and I pray that the majority here does not do that. And I want to make sure that I'm on the record in saying that. Thank you.
Commissioner Chermak, comment?
Nope, just thank you, everybody, for coming. The copies are here if you'd like to take one. They're also online on the county website, along with the PowerPoint presentation that Dave Balzoni has done in the past. So other than that, we'll continue to work on this budget, hopefully fine tune it a little bit more, find a little extra savings, and we'll keep moving from there. So thank you.
Thank you. Although I am just beginning to fully analyze the tentative 2026 budget for potential revenue opportunities and expense savings, there are a lot of items that need to be questioned and addressed. Was the 33% tax increase in 2025 truly necessary? And have those potentially unwarranted increases now been built into the 2026 budget? Additionally, did Commissioner Gahn collaborate with our state legislators to explore opportunities for financial assistance? In my previous experience, leveraging state resources often provides valuable program funding and can help reduce the tax burden on residents. Some items contained in the 2026 tentative budget, which is up here, dated October 15th, 2025, that I intend to further analyze and investigate are the following. On page 7, Department Solicitor line items, legal, $130,000 was the 2025 budget. Estimated for 2025 spending is $317,000. In drilling down in the line item, there are payments to Myers, Breyer, and Kelly with an invoice description of legal fees, election matters, along with monthly attorney fees. Is this the same law firm whose partners or employees have been involved in supporting Commissioner Gahn and the independent candidate Michael Cappellini's campaigns? On page 21, Department 320 OYFS, line item Professional Services Consultants. The budget in 2025 was $336,000, and it's estimated to be $2.1 million spent in 2025 and $3.3 million in 2026. In drilling down on this item, there are payments to Macareth Consulting that require further investigation. Page 34, Subdepartment 336, American Rescue Plan, $7.5 million going into the fund balance on page 33. This requires additional analysis. I plan on continuing to analyze the budget and hope to find additional items that could help lower the tax burden on our taxpayers. I would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and we will have another budget hearing tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the Troop Civic Center. This hearing is now adjourned, and I hope, it's adjourned. I hope everyone has a very good night.
Oh, excuse me, I'd like to respond to those comments,
The meeting's
please.
adjourned.
I would just like to respectfully respond to that, please.
I don't have to.
I can answer almost all of those questions, and I think Mary Jo would be helpful too, our budget director who's in the audience. The line item that Commissioner Sacco is referring to that went over budget, we did question that during the budget hearings that Commissioner Chermak and I sat in with when there was only 2 commissioners. The reason for that is there was funds that were expended from that line item that was not supposed to be expended. They were taking money from out of there that was supposed to be being taken out of roads and bridges. Am I correct in that, Mary Jo?
Yes, and we did move those.
Right, and they did move those. So that, I can answer that question for you respectfully. So there's no hanky-panky going on here at all, which is, I think, what you're insinuating. The second thing that I'd like to respond to respectfully in terms of the 33% tax increase, it's clear to me that Commissioner Sacco does not fully understand how county budgets work.
I do. With all due respect, I do.
Let me just finish. The reason we had to raise taxes 33% is because we started off 2024 with a $37 million structural deficit. And we took that structural deficit and we eliminated 90 positions. We eliminated an entire department, the health department, and we made structural changes to the healthcare. Even after that, you're still left with, at that point, I think, $31 million deficit. So you have to be able to raise the revenue. Every county in Pennsylvania has this problem, but not every county in Pennsylvania goes 10 plus years without actually doing anything about it. When you are faced with a situation as I was last year, and the county's gonna run out of money before the end of the year, you have to do something. I've said this before multiple times. There is not a politician on the planet that goes into office and says, geez, I want to raise taxes 33%. If there was a way that I could have avoided it, you can bet I would have avoided it. I worked hard with the county staff to do everything that we could. But at that point, because it went 10 years without really addressing the core structural problems, that's how you come up with a 33% tax increase. So that's number one. Number two, she brought up Myers, Breyer, and Kelly. Myers, Breyer, and Kelly is one of the best law firms in our area. They were instrumental and recommended to us by our former county solicitor before they demoted him and hired Commissioner Sacco's personal attorney. They were recommended to us by Don Frederickson. Why were they recommended to us? Because when we took office, we had an Office of Youth and Family Services that was about to go out of business. That means that the children and families in Lackawanna County would not have anybody to turn to. As I said in the opening remarks, we had 12 caseworkers. We now have 50. They were able to get us out of the health department that we didn't need, and then we took those employees and we put them into our new Community Pathways program, okay? Myers, Breyer, and Kelly had a long-standing engagement with Lackawanna County. We continued that engagement so that they could help us, and they did help us. We now have our state license back, and we are one of the leaders in child welfare, and that contract ran out when we no longer needed their services. Commissioner Sacco also mentioned, shockingly, because I don't think she knows what she's talking about, Macrith Consulting. We hired Bev Macrith in Lackawanna County last year to help us out of the crisis that we had in the Office of Youth and Family Services. Who is Bev Macrith? Bev Macrith was a caseworker in York County. She rose to head up the York County Office of Children and Youth. Then she was a state representative. Then she was the director of the Department of Human Services in the state of Pennsylvania under, I believe, Governor Ridge. And then when she was done with that, she went into a role where she would go around counties throughout Pennsylvania and help them turn around their Office of Youth and Family Services. She went down to Luzerne County a few years ago and almost single-handedly helped them get their license back and turn their Office of Youth and Family Services around. So what did we do? We hired Myers, Breyer, and Kelly and Bev Macrith, and they literally got, along with a lot of other people, the caseworkers and Carrie Browning, who's now the director, got us out of a hole that you could not imagine that we were in last year. And I have to thank them both because they did a wonderful job. It wasn't for anything else other than the children and the families in this county. And as I mentioned before, rather than sit up here and bloviate, I went out and I went out on the road with a caseworker last year. I put on a baseball hat and a pair of jeans. I went out with the caseworker and I went out into the homes. I saw the children. I saw the parents. I saw the abject poverty. That's why we hired Myers, Breyer, and Kelly, and that's why we hired Bev Macrith. And you know what? They no longer work for us. Why? Because we didn't need their services anymore. They did what they were tasked with doing, which was to do a full analysis on the Department of Health, which, by the way, the last administration was, we need a Department of Health. We need a Department of Health. They came in and helped us do an analysis. Guess what we found? Not only did we not need a Department of Health, but it was going to cost us millions of dollars more in county taxpayer funds that we didn't have because we had a $37 million deficit. So we got rid of the Department of Health and we put those resources into children and youth. You know, I am absolutely floored to sit up here and to listen to Commissioner Sacco talk about the county budget when she is refusing to answer questions on whether or not she will step down after the election, which is a few days from now. They asked her point blank, and I asked her point blank at the last commissioners meeting, with all due respect, will you accept the results of the election on Tuesday? She said no comment. What does that tell you? What kind of fresh scheme do they have up their sleeves to be able to stay in power? Because it's not about me and it's not about you. It's about jobs, it's about contracts, and it's about board appointments. That doesn't matter to them. The hard work we put in last year, that's nonsense to them. What matters to them is how do we keep the power and keep our friends happy? That's the truth. I ran for office as a former teacher. I ran for office to help people. I didn't run for office to deny elections. I didn't run for office to take the vote and the voice away from the people. And I'll ask Commissioner Sacco again, since she's full of questions tonight. Will you accept the results of the election on Tuesday? And will you accept those results and step down when the election has been certified?
I actually have a question for you. Did you meet with state legislators state legislators to see if they could potentially help with any of the gap that you talk about, the deficit for 2025? Did you have meetings with them to see if there was any funding opportunities that they could assist with?
Well, I'll answer your question if you answer mine, but let me answer your.
Well,
my-
yours is not related to the budget,
Okay,
so
well-
we're sticking on the budget.
Well,
So I'd like.
I will,
if
I
you
will,
would
I will
answer that.
absolutely answer that question for you, absolutely. Commissioner Sacco must believe that the state has some bag of money someplace to fill a $37 million deficit. Does Commissioner Sacco understand that the state has not passed a budget? And actually here,
That's the budget, I'm not referring to
now wait,
this year,
I
I'm
would-
referring to
I
the
would-
past, and I do have experience in collaborating
I would like
with
to
state
respectfully-
legislators
I would
because
like-
we were able to bring in and leverage
I-
funds from the state to actually be able to do many beneficial programs while I was there as director.
I just don't want to be interrupted. Now, you can definitely respond. We have a letter here. Commissioner Sacco just asked me if I met with state officials to cover to cover a $37 million budget deficit. What she doesn't, respectfully, what she does not understand is that every county in the state of Pennsylvania is in a similar position. We just happen to be way worse because past administrations never took the problem seriously and never did anything about it. So to go to a state representative and a state senator and say, hey, do you have a bag of money for me? When they haven't passed a budget, and we just got.
Again, with all due respect, I'm not referring to the 2020.
But I just,
I'm referring to
just let me
25.
finish, just let me finish, please. We got a letter from Uri Munson, who is the Secretary of the Budget of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Specifically for Lackawanna County, the budget passed by the House would provide more than $43 million in state and federal funding this fiscal year. Again, let me just make this final point. I think that she's insinuating that somehow I could have went to a state senator or a state representative and they would have wrote us a check for $37 million. Let's say they wrote us, let's say they wrote us a check for $1 million, right? That's $1 million then that you don't have the next year. Are they going to write a check for every single county in Pennsylvania? Because we're all in the same position. What she's suggesting, with all due respect, is not realistic. It's not realistic, or else every county in the state of Pennsylvania would be doing it. The real question here is, will Commissioner Sacco accept the results of the election on Tuesday? Will she step down when the next commissioner has been duly elected and the election has been certified? I answered her question. She clearly will not answer my question because I believe that there is some scheme being concocted by her and her personal attorney, which she hired, who just happens to be our new solicitor, that they're going to try to either stop the election, they won't certify the results, God knows what they're going to do. But if I would have a lot of respect for Commissioner Sacco if she would sit up here tonight and say to the people of Dunmore and Lackawanna County, I will accept the results of the election. And when the new commissioner, whoever it is, who went out and campaigned across Lackawanna County and raised money, when that person is elected, whoever it is, that I will accept the results of the election. Not only will I accept them, but I will step down when the election is certified so that the new commissioner could take office. Because all due respect to Commissioner Sacco, she did not run for the office. She was under oath, saying to the court in Lackawanna County, I don't want to run for special election because I have to give up my state job in which I make about $80,000 a year. There's not enough time, and so I can't do it. That's a respectable answer. I respect that. Then turns around 2 or 3 weeks later, resigns the job, and takes an appointment which theoretically will only last a few weeks. So what is going on here? What is the deal? We all know deals happen in Lackawanna County. What fresh deal, what fresh scheme has been cooked up? Answer the question, and we can all go home happy that whoever the people elect will be seated here going forward in Lackawanna County.
I will respond to the point that there is no deal. I followed the home rule charter process. I should have been here approximately 8 months ago, and I'm going to leave it at that.
That's the question.
I'm not addressing those questions at a budget hearing. But one question that you didn't address, that you said you were going to address all of my questions, have any of the partners or employees from Myers, Breyer, and Kelly supported your campaign?
Absolutely. Just like a lot of other attorneys throughout Lackawanna
And
County,
the
when you,
independent
when
that
you-
you're supporting, the independent, because you are a Democrat, but the independent that you're supporting for commissioner, I believe that there was also some support coming from Myers, Breyer, and Kelly. And I know you had endorsed an independent as well.
Now, Commissioner Sacco just said that we have to stick to the budget, yet she's trying to insinuate somehow that I've done something improper. She's never run a campaign before, so she wouldn't understand that when you run a campaign, you go out and you solicit funds from all sorts of people. I raised over $200,000. Most of that money was small donors. You can go, my campaign finance report is online, and it's available. It's a public document. But the real question here that they're trying to avoid is, will she accept the results of the election on Tuesday? Will she step down when that election has been certified? She still will not answer the question.
It's an election. Shouldn't even be up to her whether she resigns or she's done.
Everybody
Okay, so at
in
this
Lackawanna.
point, I respectfully ask for order.
Everybody,
Are there any-
well, let me
Go ahead.
finish.
Yeah, please
Everybody
finish
in
your
Lackawanna
comments.
County knows, Janet Breyer, that is correct. That when you run for office and you get elected by the people, then you will take office. She cannot answer the question. That's the whole country, right. Either that or you just deny the election. They're trying to distract from the fact that they came in here like gangbusters. They formed a new majority, a Republican majority. They fired the communications director. They demoted the solicitor and then
Again,
fired her
we're
personal, and then
off.
hired her personal attorney as
off.
the county solicitor. I'm sure to block the special election. I don't know what kind of scheme they have up their sleeves, but we'll have to see what happens. But it's an embarrassment. Again, just like Monday was an embarrassment, tonight has been a failure on the part of Commissioner Sacco and Commissioner Chermak. It's pretty simple, folks. These are numbers. We all worked off these last year. Commissioner Sacco wasn't here for it, but we worked really, really hard on it. And again, she's trying to turn this into something that it should not be. The fact of the matter is, will she accept the results of the election? She can't answer that question. That's an embarrassment, not only to her, but to the residents of Lackawanna County.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
everyone is entitled to their opinion. And again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. I encourage you to go through the book. And if you have any questions, additional questions, you can leave your name and information with Mary Jo. And I thank you again, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.